Hi, my name is Ryan Cheek, and today we'll be going over programming style in Java. Programming style refers to the way a programmer uses spaces, indentations, blank lines, and punctuation characters to visually arrange a program's source code. Programs should begin with comments that describe the author of the program description, program input, and program output. Comments should also appear tabbed after each variable, before comparisons or loops, before methods. Indentation is a useful way to help separate and organize code. Indentation normally occurs on the next line after an opening bracket. Reverse indentation normally occurs on the next line after a closing bracket. Opening curly brackets should be placed on the next line after a class, method, or comparison. Closing brackets should be placed on their own separate lines, closing the code within each corresponding class, method, or comparison. Multiple variables of the same data type can be separated on different lines. This allows each variable to contain its own commented description. Alright, so here we have our class compact, which is an example from the book, page 81, and as you can see, it's very cluttered. There's a lot of information, a lot of declarations on single lines. It would be very difficult to go through and debug this or just read it. But if you'll notice, with it typed in, as I compile it, it compiles fine. The syntax is correct. There's nothing wrong with the syntax. But as far as the programming style goes, it's not pretty. And so we're going to go through and fix that real quick. Alright, so first thing I like to do is go through and all of my curly brackets, like you see here, I like to put them on their own separate lines. Alright, and so I'll go through my code, and everywhere I see a curly bracket, I'll click before it, and I'll make sure they're on a single line for themselves, like you see there. And go ahead and do this for all of them, which there's just those two right there. Okay, next thing, indentation is another very important and great way to organize your code. And normally items that are inside of a method or items inside of a class or an if statement, wherever there's a curly bracket, anything inside of that should be indented. And there are a couple ways you can indent. One way is to simply place the cursor at the beginning of the line you wish to indent and then just press tab. And that's, it comes in handy, but when you've got a lot of lines that you need to indent like I do here, a great way to do it is to simply highlight everything that needs to be indented and press tab. And as you can see, that wonderfully tabbed everything at the same time. And if you accidentally tab over too much like I did here, then you hold shift and press tab and it will shift it the other way. Okay, now everything inside of my class declaration, which is my method, is indented. As you can see, the curly brackets for the compact class stay behind. Alright, and I'm going to indent everything inside of my main method. Okay, so now we have properly separated our curly brackets and new lines, and we've indented everything within the class and the main method. Alright, so we're going to go through what we have here, and there's a couple of variables, and variables should have their own separate lines. Alright, so we're going to put int shares equals 220, and then we're going to put double average price on its own line. And then now that we're done with the variables, anything after that I like to double space it and give that extra line between them just to kind of separate them, to show that, okay, the variables that are up top and anything else is below that. Alright, and as far as our method call goes here for print line, I'm going to go ahead and put everything on one line and show you that a lot of times you can have lines, as you see here, that stick off the side of the screen, and it just kind of gets a little tedious when you've got a lot of lines of code and they're all running off the screen. You've got to scroll up and look over. And so what I can do here is I can just come, and doesn't matter where you do it, But what I like to do is start with the plus sign operand and have it so that I can see that it, okay, there's a plus, it should be a part of the line above. And as you can see, for all the operators on the page, they're real close together. There's no spaces between the variable name and the value and the operand, operator. So I'm going to go through all of my operators and throw spaces in there anywhere there's an plus sign equals any kind of operator, and I'll go ahead and put the spaces in there. Alright, everything's looking good so far. So now you see system.out.println, there were this many shares sold at this much price per share, and it's readable. You can even go as far as see this one kind of sticks over more. We can just go ahead and throw this on a new line if we want, and that way it kind of looks nicer. It's all kind of very much more readable than it was before. Alright, so now that we have that done, one last thing you should make sure you do is properly comment your code. And commenting can come in handy, especially if you have a lot of code on a page. It's great for going through your code and debugging, and for anybody else who may come back through your code and try and help you debug it as well. Alright, so I'm going to start off at the top, and I'm going to use what's called multi-line comment. Alright, and what that is it's a / with an asterisk. And the first one, the / asterisk, is in that order, and then to end it you have the asterisk /. Alright, and so what that'll do is anything that is in between will be commented out. And what I like to do is kind of have a asterisk for each line that I'm going to type on. So then I'll come up and I'll just do author Ryan Cheek program description, show how to properly comment code. And then normally when this is for a program that you're turning in, you'll want to have your example input. For this, in this case, there was no input, and then you'll go ahead and do your output. And in this case, for this program, the output is going to be number of shares at average price per share. And some even go as far as to just kind of give a little example of how it will be outputted, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So now that we have our programming head, our comments that kind of describe everything, we're going to go through our program and kind of comment each individual code, each line of code, and kind of give a brief description on what it's for. So this will just be compact class declaration. In this one, it'll be main method. I'm trying to keep it the same. Main method declaration. For variables, it's good to tab all the way over until you get to a point where any other variables, all of the comments will be lined up. What I mean by that is this comment for the int shares variable will be right here, and it'll say holds number of shares. And then when we come down here, we'll tab over until it matches the same indentation as the above comment, and we'll put holds. Actually, it's good to do the data type double holds average price per share. And I'll come back up here and do int. Alright. And then here for the print line, we can just do print to screen the number of shares at the average, or I guess, sorry, and the average price per share. Alright. And if you got a kind of a long comment like that, if you want, you can come down and put it on a separate line, but remember when you're using single line commenting, which starts with the double forward slash, you want to make sure that each line starts with double forward slash, or else it'll throw an error. So now we have our properly commented code, and once we run it, you see it ran the same as before. We'll run it. There were 220 shares sold at $14.67 per share. But unlike before, now your code is a lot easier to maintain and to read. And if you'd like, you can add more spaces, to whichever you prefer. But this is the main programming style that you'll want to stick with. Code can be easily organized with the use of brackets, indentation, and comments. Properly commented code can benefit both the author of the program and others who may need to maintain the program.